afternoon and welcome. I hope you had a very nice lunch. We are starting this second stage of the first day of the 21st GeneXus event with an activity where we'll discuss cloud computing. I think that most of you is acquainted with this issue. I will moderate two panels, one tomorrow on whether the PC is dead, and today on cloud computing. Sometimes, from an external approach to the IT world, sometimes it's easier to talk about the past instead of the things that are the present and appear to be the future. We'll try to do that with people who have far deeper training than myself, and I'll try to avoid to have the monopoly of the conversation. The idea is to discuss cloud computing. To my left, Marcos Avellón from W5 from Sao Paulo, Fernando Blum, who was a member of the board of the ANI and a president and advisor to the Ceibal Plan, Victor Villar from Montevideo.com, and Michael from Amazon. Thank you all for being here. And first of all, I would like you to introduce yourselves, your profile, and mostly why you are here. And above all, at least the headlines of your major links with the cloud. In my personal case, when I started to think, because I had to be here, and I thought, well, what do I have to do there? Well, I have a Gmail account, and to some extent that is being in the cloud. But you know, probably most of you, the sensation of having information that is not under your dominion, but on somebody else. My name is Ricardo Leiva. I am a journalist. And please introduce yourselves then. I don't know whether Mike wishes to start. Muchas gracias. Lamento que tengo que hablar en inglés. Muchas gracias.
Say thank you not only on behalf of myself, but on behalf of Amazon. And I missed the translation. What are we just doing intros right now? Or I missed the question. This is the Marte. Yeah.
You don't have a translation?
No, it's the battery is dead.
Okay, I would like you to present yourself and tell shortly your relation with the cloud computing.
Okay, thank you. So I'm Mike. Gracias. I'm Mike Culver with Amazon Web Services, and we're related to, but not the same as Amazon.com. We're sister companies. And we've been doing cloud computing, as it's called now, since before it was called cloud computing. I joined Amazon in 2006, and when I joined Amazon, there were, I believe it was about 18 people, at least in the portion of Amazon Web Services that I'm part of today. And since then, we've grown just amazingly. So we believe that the future of computing is cloud computing. Gracias. And and not just because because I work there, but because we think that cloud computing is a little bit like electricity was 100 years ago. You know, 100 years ago, most buildings and most companies had their own electrical generation facility. Not because they wanted to, not because it added value to their business, but they had it because they needed it, because you needed electricity. And yet today, any company that has electricity generated in their own building, you know, you'd think you're crazy if you did that. And we think that the servers of the world are going that same direction. We think that in a few years, you're going to find that most computing is being served from these big utility farms of data centers that are run by others at much higher scale than any individual organization.
Víctor Villar, entonces, sigamos en orden.
Mi nombre es Víctor Villar, pertenezco a Montevideo.
My name is Victor Villar. I work in Montevideo.com. That is a company of internet services. We have been here from the beginning of internet, although the term cloud is rather new. Is, as you said at the beginning, an email account, for instance, is somewhere where we don't know. And most of the mail was born from the cloud. Montevideo.com basically provides infrastructure and telecommunication services oriented to the local market. I think there are several approaches. There are global enterprises like Amazon, Windows Azure, but there is also room enough for local companies for several reasons, because sometimes the needs do not fit to the services or products that are sold at global level. There is a very large market in this case, and the major trigger of this situation is the increasing, the great increase of the bandwidth, which is not only changing the way of thinking about the structure in the company or at home, but somewhere else. I am Fernando Brum. I work as an advisor of several companies and have been related to projects at very large companies at local level, with everything related to the approach to this new infrastructure, and I have cooperated with several companies on business models in order to how to use the cloud. But they don't invite me because of that, but because I am old, and therefore I remember the first technologies, and I can make some comments in the area of changes in infrastructure and changes in the users. Typically, in all these years in technology, the changes of the users have been rather destructive, and today the change is mobile. Nobody remembers now the mini computers that were a significant change in infrastructure. So the cloud together with the mobile is creating this change, and will have a huge impact on how we do technology. But ultimately, the user himself or herself are not changing substantially. My name is Marco Bonchon. I am director of W5 in Sao Paulo. We started working with the cloud or with SaaS applications 3 years ago. And at present, our business line is a development of software in the cloud and API applications also in the cloud. We have a business line for e-government applications, and at present all our infrastructure is in Amazon. We have about 40 servers there running applications every day. Today we have a 2-hour stop from Amazon, taking advantage of Mr. Colvo's presence here. And we work, our main line of business is SaaS applications in the cloud. All our infrastructure is run in Amazon. We have only 3 servers in our company, and the rest is somewhere else. We hope it's a good place. I think there was a very strong statement by Mike at the beginning saying that this is a technological innovation compared to electricity. I would like to know if you agree on this dimension as to the change of logic. I suspect it is, but I would like you to develop why. Please take the floor freely. Well, for me, One of the things in recent years that had a greater impact on me was Nicolas' presentation last year, where he mentioned three pillars: web, the cloud, and the mobile. I think these three things cannot be compared to anything else in the past. I have coexisted with GeneXus for 3 years, and if the bandwidth increases in the same proportion as the growth of applications, I think that most running will be running in the cloud. I think it's a total change in the vision, and I think that those who are not there today will be in 2 years. I see two approaches here. On one hand, it's quite difficult to define the term, but on the other hand, the cloud is a solution to a series of problems. But we have stages, steps, or layers. The virtualization of servers, texts, applications. So a series of problems are solved, and we are therefore able to do better things than we used to do before. That is, I agree in the sense that this is a new system. One of the pillars is the cloud, and the rest is are the applications and how these applications must develop in a different manner. There is a moment of innovation that has to do with the new applications that will appear to solve new problems, and another moment that is the good use of the infrastructure, that is, not being subject any longer to an equipment and being subject to an always updated technology. As to the electricity, well, electricity, the main problem is distribution. Distribution is not generation, and with computing the same will happen. I have a rather different version. I think that it's not the cloud that will be the same as electricity. I think that rather the change in internet can be compared with electricity. One of the innovations is this access speed. Until we start talking about 10 megabit bandwidth, we could not talk about these levels of velocity at home. In UUI, there is a very huge project, optic fiber, rather slow, but the connectivity, speed of the connectivity is what is really changing the situation and increasing its visibility. The other pillar is virtualization. This technology was not mature until 3 years ago. That is, they must be extremely available, flexible, with a reliable structure allowing for growth. All this happened in a very short time, in 4 or 5 years, at a really dimensional speed. So these changes are leading to some extent to the feasibility of the cloud. In the past, the reasons were because the bandwidth was not enough, or there was not capability for visualization. And the third pillar is the process capability that current servers have. Every 18 months, the process capacity of the servers is increasing, is duplicating. And the cloud is the ideal place to use that capability. Mike?
I agree that it's absolutely a bandwidth issue. And I believe, though, that to Nicholas's point this morning, that mobile is sort of eclipsing bandwidth to your home. It's now bandwidth to your phone. And with the rise of the 3G network, I think all of us are, I'd be willing to bet that everyone in this room, or most people in this room, have a telephone that has high-speed access. And so whether you're operating from a mobile device or whether you're operating from your home, the point is that the client is still able to connect to the server.
Bien.
I think that until now this is working more or less under the same parameters, but there were here a couple of risks involved in this new system. For instance, non-availability of the system because a fall in the provider's equipment, and the lack of knowledge about, the lack of information about the place where all these systems